You think you know history? Guess again. The stories we've been fed are half gossip, half fan fiction. From emperors playing violins that didn't exist to queens who never ordered cake. Textbooks turned rumors into gospel, and Hollywood did the rest. But behind every fact you memorized for school hides a plot twist. Messy, funny, sometimes darker than the myth itself. So grab your brain, because for the next few minutes, we're breaking into history's storage room, blowing the dust off lies everyone still swears are true. Ready to ruin some trivia nights? Let us know where you're watching from, and we hope you enjoy this video. Let's go. Number 1. A violin's wail over crackling flames. That's the scene, right? Here's the rub. When Rome burned in 64 CE, violins didn't exist for another 1,500 years, and Nero wasn't even in the city at the fire's start. Ancient sources like Tacitus put him at Antium. He returned, opened public buildings to refugees, and organized grain relief. So why does the fiddle stick? Later writers loved an easy villain, and the image fit a moral. Decadent emperors watch while cities burn. The takeaway: catchy pictures outlive dull logistics. If a story sounds perfectly symbolic, double-check the timeline and the tech. Number 2. Tiny Tyrant is a killer meme. Until you meet the tape measure. Napoleon's recorded height was about 1.68 meters, around 5.6, bang on average for early 1800s Frenchmen. Confusion came from French inches, pouces, versus English ones, plus British caricaturists who shrank him to belittle a geopolitical headache. The myth snowballed. Small man, big temper, neat narrative. What matters is how propaganda hardens into fact when it flatters a punchline. Moral? If the only evidence is a cartoon, you're learning history from a joke, not a journal. Number 3. Picture a medieval classroom. Monks tracing spheres, not pancakes. Educated Europeans had known the Earth was round since antiquity. Think Aristotle's shadows, Eratosthenes' measurements, and standard university texts in the Middle Ages. They thought it was flat chestnut was cooked up much later, in the 19th century, to paint the church as anti-science and moderns as heroic enlighteners. It stuck because it flatters us. We're the smart ones. Why it matters? When we invent a dumb past, we stop learning from the real one. Pride makes terrible peer review. Number 4. Let them eat cake. Elegant, vicious, and wrong address. The line shows up in Rousseau's Confessions, written decades before Marie Antoinette could have said it, and he didn't name her. During the 1789 bread crises, she became the face of waste. Pamphleteers stapled a pre-existing sneer to a convenient queen. Reality check. Court spending was messy, yes, but the quote is a literary prop turned courtroom exhibit. The point: a perfect zinger often has no witnesses. If a line survives only because it's memeable, treat it like pastry. Pretty, flaky, not nutritious. Number 5. Horns on the helmet, mead in hand. Vikings cosplay themselves in our heads. Archaeology says otherwise. No battle-ready horned helmets have been found from the Viking Age. The look exploded in the 1800s. Costumes for Wagner's operas, romantic nationalism, and later, Hollywood. Real Norse gear favored practical iron caps and mail. Horns are a stage direction, not a saga. Why care? Because costumes steer conclusions. Give raiders antlers, and they become fantasy villains. Give them iron, and they become sailors, traders, farmers. Complex humans, not Halloween props. Number 6. You've seen it in museums. Washington grinning with a mouth full of wood. Except, nope. His dentures weren't made of timber, but a grim cocktail of human teeth, cow molars, and elephant ivory held together by gold. The squeak and stain gave them a brown hue that birthed the wooden myth. He hated them. They caused pain and distorted his speech, which is why portraits often show him tight-lipped. The real story isn't quaint. It's uncomfortable, involving enslaved people whose teeth were used for replacements. Moral? Sometimes the truth rots deeper than the legend. Number 7. One apple falls and gravity is born. Cute, cinematic, and totally overripe. Newton never claimed an apple hit him. He simply used it as an example when discussing why objects fall straight down. His friend William Stukeley later turned that casual chat into a tidy parable. The myth caught on because it gave genius a light bulb moment long before light bulbs existed. Real discovery is slower. Years of math, not one fruit concussion. The image endures because we crave eureka simplicity over tedious brilliance. Science, though, grows in orchards of patience, not miracles. Number 8. Picture pitchforks, bonfires, and women screaming in flames. Only that never happened in Salem. No one was burned. The 1692 witch trials led to 19 hangings and one man pressed to death under stones. But burning was a European thing. The confusion came later from Gothic novels and Hollywood pyres. In Massachusetts, the fire was metaphorical, religious panic and gossip, not literal flames. Why it matters, even the ways we remember cruelty get dramatized to fit our sense of horror. The truth is colder. Fear can strangle you long before it sets you on fire. Number 9. Visible from space. The Great Wall's most stubborn PR slogan. Even astronauts have tried to spot it. No luck without a zoom lens. NASA confirmed the wall's color blends with its surroundings, making it nearly invisible to the naked eye. Ironically, you can spot highways and airports much easier. The myth began in the 1930s, when a British writer guessed it might be visible, and everyone quoted him ever since. Funny how one might turned into a fact orbiting textbooks. Turns out, scale alone doesn't guarantee visibility, on Earth or in history. Number 10. The giant wooden horse, every student's favorite trick. But Troy's famous Trojan horse probably never rolled an inch. Ancient accounts like Homer's Odyssey and Virgil's Aeneid are poetry, not eyewitness reports. Archaeologists suggest horse may have been code for a siege engine or a metaphor for a breached gate. No splinters, no wheels, no cinematic cavalry surprise. The story stuck because it's perfect. Brains beating brawn in one elegant metaphor. Maybe that's the real Trojan trick. Stories so clever we never notice we've invited myth inside the walls. Number 11. Close your eyes and picture Cleopatra. Gold crown, desert sun, pure Egyptian royalty. Except, she wasn't Egyptian. Cleopatra VII was Greek, descendant of Ptolemy, one of Alexander the Great's generals. Her family ruled Egypt for 3 centuries without ever abandoning their Macedonian roots or language. She did speak Egyptian fluently, the first of her dynasty to bother. That's where the confusion started. Later storytellers turned her into an Eastern temptress, a cultural shorthand for ancient Egypt itself. In truth, she was a politically savvy hybrid of worlds. Lesson? History loves its icons exotic, not accurate. Number 12. Imagine a single torch, one night, and Alexandria's vast library turning to ash. Romantic, but wrong. The Library of Alexandria didn't die once. It faded over centuries through wars, decrees, and neglect. Julius Caesar's fire burned part of the docks in 48 BCE, yes, but later, Christian and Muslim purges, plus plain disrepair, did more damage. There was no cinematic inferno, no one villain. What was lost was quieter. Scrolls decaying in damp rooms, budgets vanishing. The myth endures because tragedy feels neater than entropy. Sometimes the world's greatest losses don't explode. They just crumble. Number 13. Einstein failed math? Not even close. When a tabloid headline said he flunked, it confused the Swiss grading scale where lower numbers meant higher scores. Einstein mastered calculus by 15. Sure, he struggled socially and cut class, but arithmetic wasn't his kryptonite. It was gossip. The rumor took off because people love genius with a flaw tales. They make brilliance feel reachable. Ironically, he spent his life debunking bad math about the universe, yet couldn't fix bad math about himself. The equation's clear. Genius plus myth equals an A in storytelling, F in truth. Number 14. You've seen the movie version. Sweating slaves dragging giant stones under the whips of overseers. Archaeology says otherwise. The Great Pyramids were built by skilled laborers, not enslaved captives. Workers housed in paid villages with medical care and beer rations. Excavations near Giza unearthed their tombs, honored beside the monuments they built. The slave narrative was spun by ancient Greek writers and later Western imagination. The truth? National pride, not chains, built the limestone giants. Real history doesn't need pity to impress. It stands just fine on stone foundations and human skill. Number 15. Columbus discovered America. That textbook line aged like spoiled rum. People had lived there for over 15,000 years, and Norse explorer Leif Erikson reached Newfoundland around 1000 CE, 5 centuries earlier. Columbus never set foot on North America proper. He landed in the Bahamas, Cuba, and Hispaniola. Still, Europe crowned him the discoverer, erasing entire civilizations in a single headline. Why it matters. Discovery is often just rebranding. You can't find a world that's already full of maps, stories, and people. The only thing Columbus truly discovered was his own arrogance. Number 16. The image is dramatic. Lenin collapsing in a blaze of revolutionary gunfire. But the truth is less cinematic. He didn't die from the 1918 assassination attempt. He survived those bullets. Years later, after exhausting work, poor health, and 3 strokes, he died quietly in 1924. Soviet propaganda polished the story, turning him into a martyr felled by enemies. In reality, it was exhaustion, not heroism, that took him. History prefers grand endings, bullets, not biology. The lesson? Ideologies crave martyrs. The body just wants rest. Sometimes, the most glorious deaths are paperwork deep down. Number 17. Ivan the Terrible, crimson-faced, club in hand, striking his son dead. A painting we've all seen. But no hard proof supports it. Contemporary records mention his son's sudden death, yes, but no eyewitness ever confirmed patricide. Centuries later, artists and chroniclers added the drama, feeding the image of a mad czar. Repin's 1885 masterpiece made rumor into gospel. It's a case study in visual propaganda. Once an emotion is painted, history rarely scrapes it off. The story stuck because terrible kings make better myths than complicated fathers. Rage sells longer than nuance. Number 18. Picture Napoleon storming the pyramids under a rain of bullets. Battle of the Pyramids, right? Well, almost. The fight happened miles away. The pyramids were just convenient scenery on the horizon. Napoleon never attacked them. The name came from his PR team afterward. It sounded epic. In truth, it was a brutal clash against the Mamluks near Mbaba, and no ancient stone even cracked. Yet the branding worked. Newspapers printed glory, not geography. Sometimes the battlefield of legend is just clever marketing. Never underestimate a general who also knew good clickbait. Number 19. Nero, the anti-Christian monster, burning saints in the streets? That story came later. While he did persecute some groups after the Great Fire, his motives were political, scapegoating to calm a furious public, not a crusade against faith. The idea of Nero as Christianity's first villain bloomed centuries later, when early church historians needed a perfect persecutor. It's the original PR villain arc: a selfish emperor, an innocent faith, clean sides. Real life? Bureaucracy, paranoia, and chaos. Morality tales crave clarity. History rarely gives it. Number 20. You can almost hear Beethoven, deaf to the world, conducting his Ninth Symphony in perfect silence. Beautiful, but wrong. By 1824, he was nearly deaf, but not fully. He could still sense low tones through vibrations, pressing a wooden rod between the piano and his jaw. That's how he heard. It wasn't mystical genius, just adaptation. The crowd did stand and cheer, but not because he was totally cut off. They knew what he'd fought to keep. The legend sells tragedy. The truth sells resilience. Even half-deaf, he didn't need pity. He needed rhythm. Number 21. Cowboy hats with dramatic curves, dust storms, and tumbleweeds. Classic, right? Except the wide-brimmed Stetson didn't become a cowboy icon until after the frontier days. In the mid-1800s, most real cowboys wore bowler hats, military leftovers, or even caps. The 10-gallon look was marketing, John B. Stetson's 1865 invention for practicality, later romanticized by Hollywood and rodeos. Photographs of working cowhands show no movie flair, just sweat-stained wool. So that silhouette you picture? Born in an ad, not on a ranch. Proof that fashion history rides faster than fact when movies hold the reins. Number 22. Lightning cracks, a kite rises, and suddenly, electricity is discovered. At least that's the bedtime version. Benjamin Franklin didn't invent electricity. He proved lightning was electricity. And he might not have flown the kite himself. Others repeated the risky stunt while he described it in theory. His real genius was in experimenting safely with Leyden jars and grounded wires. Still, the image of a soaked old man flirting with death in a thunderstorm stuck. Why? Because danger makes discovery cinematic. Science may love data, but legends love drama. And Franklin got both in one spark. Number 23. When you picture a medieval tournament, you probably imagine knights shattering lances until someone dies. The truth: most jousts were more sport than slaughter. By the 14th century, strict rules and referees made them closer to professional games than battlefield training. Injuries happened, sure, but deliberate killing would disqualify you. Chronicles like Froissart's describe pageantry, banquets, and betting, more Renaissance Olympics than war zone. The myth of blood-soaked contests came later, courtesy of Victorian writers hungry for danger. Reality was bureaucracy with armor polish. Knights preferred applause to funerals, just like athletes now. Number 24. Alchemy. Everyone says they tried to turn lead into gold, right? Not quite. Most alchemists saw gold as a metaphor for spiritual perfection, not literal treasure. Their experiments mixed chemistry with mysticism, laying groundwork for real science. Figures like Paracelsus studied medicine. Newton himself spent decades on alchemical notes. The mad gold maker trope came from satirists and Enlightenment critics mocking superstition. In truth, alchemists weren't greedy fools. They were the first to boil, distill, and record reactions. The irony? They failed to make gold, but minted the modern lab instead. Number 25. A dancing frenzy killing hundreds. Sounds like a medieval zombie outbreak. The dancing plague of 1518 in Strasbourg is real, but not as massive as legends claim. Contemporary records show dozens afflicted, not thousands, and no verified deaths from dancing itself. Modern historians suspect ergot poisoning, stress hysteria, or collective trauma, not curses or devils. The myth inflated over centuries, fueled by storytellers craving Gothic absurdity. The truth is quieter. Hungry, frightened people moving until they collapsed. History doesn't need the supernatural. It's wild enough when panic meets exhaustion on a hot summer street. Number 26. The phrase, "millions burned for witchcraft," echoes like a medieval horror film. But historians, after combing through trial records, found around 40,000 to 60,000 executions across 3 centuries. Still awful, but far from millions. The myth inflated during feminist and anti-religious movements of the 19th century, when people used it as shorthand for female oppression. The real pattern? Bureaucratic panic, bad weather, politics, and paranoia, not organized genocide. Truth doesn't erase tragedy, but it adds perspective. Hysteria kills, even when math can't count it right. Fear spreads faster than fire, and both leave ash where logic should be. Number 27. Bloody Mary. Her nickname screams mass murder. Yet Queen Mary I of England executed about 300 Protestants. Grim, but nowhere near the thousands her legend claims. The myth grew under her successor, Elizabeth I, whose Protestant supporters turned Mary into the perfect villain. Pamphlets painted her as a monster, and history teachers kept the ink wet for centuries. Real Mary was fanatical, but not the cartoon witch she became. When politics writes history, blood always looks redder. Moral? Every era needs its monster. Sometimes it's more propaganda than person. Number 28. Think of roaring panzer tanks crushing battlefields, Germany leading the world in armored warfare. But the first operational tank rolled out of British factories in 1916, the Mark I. It crept across the Somme while German troops gawked in disbelief. Germany caught up later, but history's memory flipped the script because German tank sounds menacing, cinematic. The real trailblazers were British engineers and steelworkers patching machines in mud. Progress doesn't always belong to the loudest name. It's often buried in smoke, oil, and understatement. Innovation, it seems, drives best when no one's watching. Number 29. Stock tickers crash, millionaires jump, and the Great Depression begins on Black Thursday, 1929. But the economic storm had been brewing for years. Rising inequality, farm debt, and reckless banking practices. The crash was just the loudest thunderclap. Unemployment didn't peak until 1933, long after the ticker tape settled. Why the confusion? One bad day makes a cleaner story than slow decay. Humans crave single villains and instant collapse. But history isn't a headline. It's a timeline. And sometimes the scariest crashes happen in silence, long before the fall. Number 30. Discovered and deciphered overnight. That's how the Rosetta Stone story's often told. In truth, it took 23 painstaking years between its 1799 discovery by Napoleon's soldiers and Jean-François Champollion's final breakthrough in 1822. He compared Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphic scripts letter by letter, nearly losing his health in the process. The myth of instant genius erases the boredom, obsession, and migraines behind real progress. Discovery isn't lightning, it's erosion. The stone didn't reveal secrets easily. A human mind had to carve the path one symbol at a time. Number 31. The Night of Panic. Millions fleeing. Chaos in the streets. That's how the 1938 War of the Worlds broadcast is remembered. In reality, the mass hysteria never happened. Orson Welles' radio play fooled some listeners, but newspaper accounts exaggerated it to attack radio, their new rival for ad money. Police logs show a few confused calls, not mass exodus. The myth stuck because it flatters us. People back then were so gullible. Truth is, media wars invented that panic. The aliens never invaded, but journalism sure did. Fear sells, and headlines always land first. Number 32. Einstein, the father of the atomic bomb? Not even close. He didn't design it, fund it, or want it. His only role was signing a 1939 letter, drafted by physicist Leo Szilard, warning Roosevelt that Nazi Germany might build one. That note nudged the U.S. toward the Manhattan Project, but Einstein himself was a pacifist who later regretted signing it. Still, pop culture made him the genius behind destruction. The irony's painful. A man who chased peace became a mascot for apocalypse. A signature sparked history, but not the kind he'd imagined. Number 33. Pythagoras' theorem. It bears his name, so he must have discovered it, right? Wrong. Babylonian tablets and Egyptian texts show the formula centuries earlier. Pythagoras likely proved it formally, but the geometry was ancient long before Greece got the credit. His cult of followers, obsessed with numbers as divine symbols, ensured his fame outlived the facts. It's the oldest case of branding beats origin. The truth? Mathematics belongs to civilizations, not celebrities. But history loves tidy heroes. So one Greek sage got eternal royalties for the world's oldest math homework. Number 34. You've heard the cherry tree confession. I cannot tell a lie. George Washington, little hatchet in hand, admitting guilt with saintly honesty. Total fiction. The tale came from biographer Mason Weems, who added it after Washington's death in 1800 to sell books and teach virtue. It worked. School children memorized it for generations. The real Washington was complex, pragmatic, private, and occasionally political with the truth. But myths don't do nuance. A flawless hero is easier to frame than a real man. Honesty sells well, especially when it's invented. Number 35. A flood covering the world. Animals boarding 2 by 2. It's one of humanity's oldest stories. Yet geology says otherwise. There were massive local floods, Mesopotamia, the Black Sea Basin, but no global deluge. The Noah narrative likely fused memories of real disasters into cosmic metaphor. Civilizations from India to the Americas told similar flood tales, proof not of one event, but of shared trauma and imagination. The moral survived longer than the water. Rebuild after ruin. The earth never drowned completely, but humans, clearly, love to retell the splash.